A wife says to her husband, "Can you please be more emotionally intelligent?" He answers, "Okay, I understand that you're sad, and I'm prepared to fix it by buying you a new blender." That punchline lands because it's true. Men often go straight to the toolbox when what's needed is a listening ear. Hi, I'm Robert, your AI guide, backed by therapists who work with men and their everyday challenges. Here, you'll get practical steps and clear resources to help you feel stronger, inside and out. Leave a comment and tell me what you want me to talk about in future episodes. Feels almost instinctive, isn't it? Your instinct to fix, to do, and to solve. Because men have been trained to be useful. On the other hand, that same training can leave a quiet gap between us and the people we care about. In this episode, you'll get a simple map of emotional levels men tend to move through. Moreover, you'll learn practical steps to move up and concrete ways to try them today. If you stick with me, you'll come away with actions, not lectures. It's okay to feel awkward or clumsy around emotions. In fact, feeling that way is almost a predictable side effect of how many of men were raised. Keep calm. Don't make a fuss. Handle it. Consequently, emotions can end up shoved into lockers until they leak out at the worst times. Why does this happen? Well, first, because society rewards reliability, so men learn to show up steady. The second reason is that men often don't learn the emotional vocabulary beyond the words fine or angry. Third, resources like therapy or time for reflection aren't always available. To put it another way, emotional fitness is like training for a team sport. If you only practice solo drills and never do passing, you'll be fit, but you won't play well with others. Now here is a short map of levels of emotional intelligence. First is emotional invisibility. You push feelings away or numb them. Secondly, or level 2, functional stoicism. You behave well, but you feel disconnected. Third, or level 3, reflective awareness. You begin to name and think about feelings. Next comes level 4, the integrated empathy. You feel other people's emotions and respond in helpful ways. And finally, level 5, the embodied wisdom. Emotions guide your choices, your leadership, and your purpose. Here are some frequently asked questions and myths. If I show emotion, will I lose respect? Not usually. In fact, vulnerability tends to build trust when it's honest and measured. Isn't emotional stuff messy? Sure it is, but messiness is data. It tells you where your life needs attention. Or you may ask, do I have to be fixed to open up? No. Think of emotional work as upkeep, not emergency surgery. Why most men stay at level 2? Well, the big reasons are that on the surface, level 2 is a sweet spot. Dependable, trusted, successful. However, that's also the trap. First, social rewards keep us there. For example, in many workplaces and friendships, being steady and unflappable is praised. A man who keeps his cool gets promoted. Therefore, there's no external pressure to dig deeper. Second, come the cultural scripts. Men are taught to solve. For instance, when a partner says, "I'm worried," the instinct is to offer solutions. More cash, a plan, a tool, rather than to ask, "Tell me more." In other words, being useful can look like emotional competence, but it isn't the same. Third, lack of models and language. If the men around you only ever say, "I'm fine," you don't have examples to copy. Notably, you need a vocabulary and a model. For example, Satya Nadella, Microsoft's CEO, shifted a whole corporate culture from know-it-all to learn-it-all by emphasizing empathy and curiosity. Similarly, Richard Branson of the Virgin Group shows how a relaxed, approachable leadership style, trusting and delegating, fosters open communication. These are real-life models of how emotional openness can sit comfortably with power. Think about that. Leadership doesn't require stoicism. It can thrive on listening. Okay, there may be practical barriers, sure. Therapy costs money, time is tight, and admitting vulnerability sometimes feels risky. Consequently, many men choose the safer route, functional stoicism, because the immediate payoff is stability, and the cost is hidden until later. A Reddit contributor, a plumber, used to leave his feelings in the truck. Then one day his teenage daughter said, "Dad, I'm scared about college." He said, "I don't know what to say, honey." And she replied, "That's okay, Dad. Tell me, what scares you?" He did, and they planned together. See? Small step, big change. Naming the emotion turned isolation into partnership. So here are 3 practical steps, plain and actionable. Step 1. Name it. Do this today. Pick one moment and say aloud, "I feel anxious about," or write it down. This small act trains your brain to notice feelings instead of ignoring them. Step 2. Share it in microdoses. For instance, start with 20 seconds. "I felt embarrassed when..." Notice the reaction. Often you'll get understanding, not judgment. Step 3. Build a tiny ritual. 5 minutes of evening reflection or a 2-minute check-in with someone you trust. These are simple, repeatable, and they build emotional muscle. Science tells us this works. For example, researchers first defined emotional intelligence as the ability to perceive, use, understand, and manage emotions. In addition, later studies showed that emotional expression and awareness link to better relationships and lower depression scores. In short, the evidence backs the basic steps we're talking about here. You try once and it's awkward. What can you do? Try again in another setting. Keep it tiny. Okay, colleagues mock emotional talk. Then practice with one trusted friend or a therapist. Or maybe you get overwhelmed. Then reduce the time. A one-sentence check-in is progress. These tweaks keep the work doable. If you overshare and feel worse, stop and ground yourself. Breathe. Name the feeling. "I feel exposed." And ask for a reset. If a conversation turns hostile, pause and say, "I want to come back to this when we're both calmer." This keeps relationships safe while you learn. So, what helped you when you experienced the same thing? Please share in comments. Your story could help another guy today. You might expect that sharing emotions always makes things softer. However, sometimes honesty provokes defense or awkwardness. Nevertheless, honest practice usually improves things because it forces realignment. For instance, saying, "I'm scared about money," can lead to joint planning, whereas keeping quiet often leads to resentment. So, honesty is risky, but often more efficient. To summarize, name one feeling today, say one honest sentence to a trusted person, and do 5 minutes of reflection tonight. The key points: it's normal to feel this way. Naming feelings gives you options. Small, consistent steps build real change. If you feel stuck, ask for a meeting with a specialist. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a strategy. If you'd like to go deeper into the ideas from this episode, you'll find a selection of carefully chosen books in the links below. Each one offers clear, practical insights into emotional intelligence, communication, and personal growth, the kind of guidance that supports real change, not just theory. You'll also find a free downloadable PDF that maps out the 5 levels of male emotional intelligence. It's simple, visual, and designed to help you understand where you are today and what small steps can move you forward. Many listeners use it as a daily or weekly check-in tool. Take your time, explore what resonates, and choose the resources that support your journey. Growth doesn't have to be rushed. It just needs to be intentional. Next time, we'll talk about what your father never taught you about being a man and why it wasn't his fault.